What time did this happen?
TVC News. First with breaking news.
You're watching Business Nigeria, of course, N31st, 2023. Responding to the suspension, Oando said the delay in releasing its 2023 audited financial statements was due to its dealing with the Nigerian Ajib Oil Company. Oando PLC reports 62.6 billion naira in after-tax profits, and supply and trading business boosts 2 trillion naira top-line revenue in first half of 2024. Well, joining me on the show to discuss this is economist and analyst and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so the lifting of the suspension on the trading of shares must have come as a big relief to shareholders. What do you think of this?
Well, big relief for shareholders. And again, also kudos to the NGS for corporate governance, and also kudos to the Oando management team. Because immediately that the suspension was done, they promised that by Friday that result would be ready, okay. And they kept to their word, which again that tells you the new Oando we're about to see. And because those results came in with the last 2023 full year and then half year of 2024, so I think it was good for the market. The response was with that suspension did not last forever. Yeah. So that to give investors chance to begin to think whether there was anything wrong with the company. Like they said, like you rightly put in that report, was due to the acquisition. And so that was a challenge, because you know you are acquiring a major asset, and that major asset immediately started bringing profit. So it's not that you are acquiring it, then later on you begin to invest in it for profit, then you say, okay, it will have impact on our bottom line in the near future, but this acquisition immediately bringing impact, and so they need to key that into their bottom line. So
how did the suspension affect the financial? What's the financial implication of the suspension when it happened?
Well, there was no any financial implication. The good thing about the suspension is that it also has given opportunities to a lot of investors that did not partake. Okay. In Oando to begin to look at Oando and then begin to think how you can key into what we've seen as one of the best performing stock thus far. Okay. You've seen if you look at the oil share index, you've done averagely maybe 30% this year. And Oando alone as a company has done about 756% in terms of capital appreciation alone, and one of the best performing shares in the market. And when you look at the way the shares have been moved, the result that has come in, you definitely will say there was not so much in, but yeah, definitely the impact will be investors will get scared. And then when immediately the day it was lifted, you saw the price came down to about 70 naira. But at today, midday trading, it has gone as far as 72 naira. So you see that recovery stream from Oando going forward. But in terms of financial concerns, I think it didn't have it. So just give opportunity for other investors that have not bought in it. As a stock that have beaten inflation. It has also the best performing stock. It has even beaten the entire all share index of the NGS. So I think it's a good stock that moved from a low of 8 naira 50 kobo before the announcement of this acquisition to a higher about, even if we say 70 naira, that's huge, but it went as high as 89 naira before we saw that drawback as a result of profit taking.
So it means that customers still trust the brand even with the suspension.
Man, you see, the challenge is that most times people don't even look at the numbers and look at what this company is into. When you look at Oando as it stands now, when you're investing in Oando, you're investing in an oil and gas company first. Then secondly, again, when you look at Oando, you're investing in a power company, okay, because they have a power, they control Opela, IPP powers, and that alone gives about 300 megawatts to the national grid, and with the capacity to increase it by 2025 mid-year by 180 megawatts. So and about 9% contribution to the national grid. So you're investing into a power company. You're also investing into a company that's into renewable energy, clean energy. And also you're investing into a company that's into trading. And these tradings, I mean, they are trying to expand into Southern Asia. They are going to the Caribbean. So you are not just investing in just an oil and gas company. You in the stock exchange, so you are investing into a one-shop company, a company that has
a pictorial of every business
around it. Yeah. So it's a good one when you are an investor in Oando, and when you are thinking of coming into Oando. There's no better time to come, because again, looking at the peers in that sector also, when you look at the peers, you look at Seplat, you look at Aradas, that just was just listed, you look at corn oil. Then you look at what those are doing, the marketing arm of some of those companies. And then you look at what Oando is doing. You look at the price that Oando is now, and look at the price that those other companies are. You realize that Oando is a bargain for investors going forward. So it will be a nice one if you're an investor and you're beginning to look at Oando as one of those shares that you need to hold, because there's a lot of potential in it, like I've just said, giving you a lot of...
What are the key highlights of their H1 results, and what do they speak to?
Wow, my key highlight has to do with the profit. I mean, when you look at the challenging environment they operate, and then you look at the asset they acquire, you look at a half-year result, you look at the full-year result of 2023, and look at a half-year result of 2024, you realize that the half-year result is way above the full-year result of 2023. So you are looking at a company that has come back to profitability. And for me, that is the key highlight. Now, going forward, like I said, you're looking at a company that just came in, a company that was a mere player before now. When I mean a mere player, we're just a player in the joint venture, but now a major player. And so you see that it has improved in terms of its holding from 20% joint ownership player, joint venture player, to 40% joint venture player. That means they are not a major player. Then you look at the assets that has been abandoned that will be used by Oando now to increase their bottom line. Then you're looking at a company which within 1 month of the acquisition have been able to improve output by 36%. So that is huge. That's just within a month. Yeah. And some of these assets have been... So when you look at the numbers in those companies, you could see some challenges in terms of the dip in terms of natural gas production. With this current acquisition, it will help. And like I said, it's a company that is diversifying. So you can't get all those sectors at the same time. If you look at the power sector, or if you look at some power companies that are listed in the exchange already, when you look at the amount they are trading at, compared to a company that is an oil and gas, a power sector, is a trading company, and it also, renewable, when you talk about CMG, electric car, new clean energy, and remember they are also partnership with Lagos State. Yeah. You begin to see all these things come in, most probably within the 9 months to 1 year results.
All right. So in all of this, now what can investors learn from the example of Oando, apart from the fact that it was suspended, but it came out from suspension and according to you is doing quite well in the market now? What kind of others learn from this?
I think corporate governance and to the Oando team, because they are no more a local player, they are no more a small player, they are a global player with kind of asset they have acquired. So we expect that there will be an improvement in corporate governance in Oando. And I think that for me is the key, because once there's corporate governance, like they said, oh, we released the result on this day, this is the challenge that we had. And on that day, they kept to their word. That tells you now they are now beginning to realize that they are a big fish, they are a big player in the sector. And you look at a sector, an oil and gas sector. One of my big boss will tell me that that's the life wire of the blood of the Nigeria economy. So, and you are now beginning to have domestic players take over that space. And Oando is playing a key role in that aspect, because they were the first indigenous company that got the approval to manage an asset of a major national before now. So you can see that means the capacity, the technical ability, and everything is there. So I think with the kind of asset and the kind of expectation, which you can see that within 6 months, that expectation was made relatively in terms of profit, because you're looking at a loss, company coming from a loss when they're going to profit. So I think there's a lot to be learned, but majorly I think corporate governance, and I believe strongly that the management should keep to that.
All right, so what does the future hold for the various stakeholders of Oando, including Nigeria, especially with the completion of the acquisition of the NAOC by Oando?
Number one, you see the challenge has been when you see the foreign company, what has led to some of them dumping some of these assets has to do with insecurity, and also has to do with oil theft, and also have to do with their lack of they lack dealings with the villagers, or what I call the oil community. Now, what you see in Oando is that it's a full-blooded Nigerian company. He knows the challenges that the Nigerian community face. He knows the needs that they are supposed to meet. And definitely they are going to meet those needs, because that's a full-blooded domestic company. And you can see that, like I said, in their production within a month. So they've improved production. And they always are a company that thinks of the host community. Because as it stands now, 8.9 megawatt of electricity is being provided by Oando to the host community that have their well. So we are going to see a company that is not just looking at the profit, it's looking at how can we have impact on the people that are behind our success story, not just building the success and thinking of, just trading outside Nigeria, expanding, earning FX and all. So for me, I think that is one area we need to look at, especially when you look at what has happened in the Niger Delta thus far. And so for me, it's the people, because they are the men. You see, sometimes we have a challenge in Nigeria. Nigeria always think of, the resources, the oil resources. They don't think that the best, I mean, the resources that they have is also their people. So Oando is leading that space and say, look, this is the host community. We must provide the amenity for them. Once we provide the amenity for them, that will boost our output. That will boost our relationship with them. And at the end of the day, it comes to a bottom line. There's already in management, they talk about people, they talk about profit, and they talk about innovation. And that's what we're seeing Oando is doing. So
looking at the NGX Regulation Limited, are they doing their best in ensuring compliance?
Give it to the NGS. I think they've been up to the task these days in terms of regulatory. If you look at what they've done, some companies were suspended, some companies were fined. Sometimes you don't even hear about this because sometimes when those things comes out, you see them sometimes in their balance sheet that they paid fine of this to NGS. I think NGS has been up and doing the current management of NGS. Since it became a limited liability company, since it became a PLC, it has been open because now, it's a PLC. So you have to bring those books, you have to show your books, you have to let people know what you are doing. It's no more what you have to do with government interference. If people will look at Oando, look at the man in hem of affair of Oando, look at the president, and you said, how dare you try to win? But because of its corporate governance, and you also have to give it to the Oando guys, they are not trying to pull their weight power behind. They said, you know what? It's corporate governance. We've been suspended. We need to do what we have to do. And that has applied to most stocks in the Nigerian market thus far. So give it to NGS. In terms of corporate governance, I think they have been top-notch.
So you mentioned that Oando is a global player.
Yeah,
big global player. So is there an implication of it being listed in both the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange?
It's already listed in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange.
Yes, it's already listed there.
It's listed in the London Stock Exchange also. So that's what I say, the global. So sometimes I jokingly tell Nigerians, most Nigerians will call you and say, look, I want to invest in a company that is that can earn FX, that can, it's FX driven. I said, look, there are many of them. I know one is one of the key of them. You're talking about crude oil, so you're talking about, like talking about trading, you are trying to expand into the Caribbean and other nations of the world. And you're talking about crude oil, so you're talking about export out of the country, and you're talking about a company that will tend to improve those exports out of this country. So you're looking at a company that will be driving in FX into, and when you view that revaluation of that FX, you see it play out in their bottom line also. So it is a global player that is driven. So it's, like I said, it's diversified. You look at the upstream sector of the Oando, and you remember Nigerian government saying that we think we need to improve production to about 1 million barrels per day. And one of those key players that will drive that will be Oando. I'm very confident about that. So they will drive that space in terms of production, especially meeting local consumption of refined petroleum product. And that also will help bring down inflation. That will also help bring stability in our exchange rate, because we won't be seeing most of the challenges that we are seeing. And I wonder will be bringing FX and also be able to supply crude oil to be refined locally when there is improvement in production. And that's what this current asset they have will help them do. They've not even touched some of these abandoned assets so much, but by the time they start dealing, I'm just telling you about just within a month, and you have improved production by 36%. So it's definitely a global player, but also looking at stability of the Nigerian economy. And like I said, they're also in the power sector, giving about 9% to the national grid, and think of improving it in 2025. So they are a global player, but also they are not looking down at what is happening in their country.
So you will be confident to advise anybody to invest with Oando?
I mean, you don't even need me to be confident to do that. You need to go and look at the numbers, look at what they are doing, look at the acquisition, look at what they have done, look at their half-year result, what they are going, look at their projection, especially when you listen to what the the CEO said as far the half-year result, thinking of better. And then again, like I said, look at their sector, look at the players in that sector, look at the price some of this equity in that sector is trading, and then look at the price of Oando is trading at, look at the value that you get from Oando going forward. I mean, you don't need a prophet to tell you. You don't even need to be a stockbroker or a big investment analyst like me or become an economist to know that this is a place to be if you are thinking of maximizing inflation, maximizing return on your investment.
So what's the future outlook for Oando?
Future outlook is huge. It's very huge. I can't stop talking about when you're investing in Oando. Like I said, you're investing in an upstream company, you're investing in a power company, you're investing in a trading company, you're investing also you're also investing in an energy company. We talk about renewable. We have been talking about CNG buses. They will be coming. Who is going to play those? Who's going to be the key player of those? It's Oando. They're already prepared even before times like this come. They're already looking at electric car, clean energy. Like I said, they're already partnering with Lagos State. So if you look at potential, they talk about innovation. Okay. I think that's what drives a company forward. For me, that's some of those things that gives me. And like I keep saying, look at the potential in terms of the result that have come out in the shortest time after this acquisition. And some people will say, oh, there used to be an acquisition they did with Cocono Phillips. How did that not impact on the bottom line? That's a different acquisition entirely. That was not even bringing, they had to reinvest to get some of these, to get that started. But in this case, I mean, the very day that acquisition was signed to law, it's already adding to their bottom line. And you also will know that this is not just a local acquisition. It was with an international company. So more or less, you look at an Oando acquiring an international company, then you see what that. If you look, like I said, each of the milestone in terms of this acquisition, when it was announced, we saw the share price gone up. When the result was released, we saw the share price going up. Mm-hmm. When government approved it, we saw the share price going up. So it has been, and we are not seeing that number yet in the bottom line. We're just scratching the surface of those numbers. So definitely,
it will be a wise decision.
It will be a very wise decision.
All right. So the Chief Executive Officer of Oando Group, Wale Tinubu, emphasized the company's long-standing dedication to transforming lives through accessible energy resources. Now, we are just coming from another national grid, and national grid collapse. Now, do we see Oando as an energy player drive in as a possible game changer there?
Like I told you, they contribute about 9%
yes.
to the national grid. They are trying to, that's about 300 megawatts. They are trying to improve it also by first quarter of next year by 180 megawatts. So that's giving them about 300, and that's about 480 megawatts. Yes. That's huge.
That's big.
That's big. That's huge. And then, like I said, the host community also, they make sure they provide power for them. So it's yes, but again, we need to know that playing in the power sector, they are just only playing in the area of transmission. Mm-hmm. So the transmission side has not been a problem. So it has been the distribution in terms of the infrastructure that they have. On the part of Oando, you can't say they are not contributing their part. But I think with what is going on, they might just have to see how they can improve upon helping the distribution companies to be able to get value of this transmission that they are doing. So for me, with the national grids, with Oando coming on stream, but again, they have to do the other because Oando can produce as much as they can. If you cannot take it from there, there's nothing they can do. There's a problem. So they are not among the Jinkos, the Discos. They are just the distribution company. So what we emphasize is that for the government to get value, for those companies to get value, they also have to improve their infrastructure. Because we were just talking about half year next year, Oando will improve by 180 megawatts. So they will keep on improving in terms of adding up to the national grid. It's not left for those that are supposed to benefit to be able to take it.
All right, so it's the end of the week, trading at NGX, and the market is closing on a positive note of by 0.40%. Can you take us through the figures of today's trade?
Well, at the time I was leaving, I think the market was positive due to a lot of blue chip companies are doing very well. We'll continue to see that play out for a while. Again, we are coming towards the end of the year, so you'll see a lot of companies, investors, portfolio manager reassessing. Then we've got the third quarter result already. The third quarter result is already out.
Okay, what does it say?
it's also a lot of positivity for most of the financial sector, most of the companies that have. So investors are really keen towards the year for companies that are going to pay dividends. So investors are beginning to look at the numbers and they are seeing good, exciting entry point. So you continue to see that green, but then I can assure you that you have those green all through. It will come a point for profit taking. But as it stands now, I think most of the equity, especially in the financial space, are doing very well. Their third quarter result says that they're doing very, very excellently well. So most investors, you look at that number, the financial sector seems to tick. And also today we saw an upside in RRDL that was listed sometime, which has been a company that has been going through a lot of battering for some while, but we're seeing a recovery. Yesterday we saw a recovery and we saw that continue to meet the trading today. So there's a lot of opportunity in the market, but again, the market still need a trigger, because the market itself will depend on what the microeconomic issues are saying, especially for larger conglomerate like MTN, Airtel, others. You've seen that those conglomerates that are FX driven have had a lot of losses going forward. But again, hopefully going forward, there will be a change in that narrative. So a lot of investors are concentrating in the banking stock for now. Good dividend payout, good profit margin, and most of them are also will soon be hearing what the outcome of their recapitalization. And as it stands, it's like most of them all have scaled the recapitalization hurdle.
All right, so let's look at next week's trade. What's your prediction, seeing from what you have seen this week? What's your prediction for next week? And you know that the festive season is fast approaching. So what should we expect?
Profit taking. Profit taking will come in, especially the beauty about the NGS these days is that about 98% of the players are locals, and are not just local, they are retail investors. And so that gives you, that's why I'm coming back to what you said about when you're talking about festivity period.
Yes.
The retail investors some of them always look at disposing their investment for festivity period. So that could also have an effect on the market. But again, that will also create good entry point to some investors. So depending on which side of a device you are. But ordinarily, the month of November has been a month that there's a slowdown in activities. You see a pickup in December. You see that pickup in January. And then by February, when those year-end results comes in, you begin to see a lot of activities happening and you begin to enjoy those capital appreciation. But the month of October, November is normally a month of profit-taking, looking at your entry point, exit point, getting the profit, then going back there again, looking at good entry point. So that's what normally happens in the month of November. But now, like I said, we have retail investors, which are high in the market. Festivity period have come. Cost of living is high. So you might see a lot of disposing of those shares between now and the middle of November. But like I always say, towards that time, then you see that the markets begin to tick upward because of expectation of the year-end results.
All right, economics analyst and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. Thank you so much for talking to us, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. Thank you.
A pleasure always. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to Asia.